In this lesson, we're going to be going over enumeration techniques. Enumeration techniques are ways of getting information from systems, specifically information like the versions and the types of applications that are running on those systems. This information can be critical to determining whether there may be vulnerabilities that could be exploited and whether those systems are at risk or not. So there's a number of different ways of doing enumeration. One of the ways is just simply doing banner grabbing. We can do things like telnet www.infiniteskills.com port 80. I'm going to grab the head, and I can do some banner grabbing in that way. They didn't like that, but I can check for banners using something like telnet. And we've gone over banner grabbing in the past. That's a really useful technique for doing enumeration. We can also do things with DNS, which is really helpful. So I could figure out who the name servers for a particular domain is. And I've got this name server here. So I could do dig at this name server, and I want to do infiniteskills.com, and I want to see if they're vulnerable to domain transfers. So that failed, but that's another way of doing some enumeration. You want to get lists of the different types of hosts that may be available in a particular domain. So doing a zone transfer may be something that you would want to do. Another thing you can do is at this same name server, I'm going to see if I can get the bind version if they're running bind. So I'm looking for a particular object called chaos, and I want the text back, and the text I want is the bind version. So let's see if I get that. And what I get is DNS made easy anycast. That appears to be the version or the DNS server that's running. I'm getting DNS made easy anycast. So I can check other servers. This is a non-authoritative name server that's available on the internet, and I can do the same thing. And this tells me if I have a legitimate reason for requesting this information, please contact the host master so that I can get it. So that's interesting. Now I know that level3.net happens to own 4.2.2.1. I happen to know that previously, but if you didn't, now you know. So that's a different type of information that you can get from using enumeration. With different systems, you may want to enumerate users. You may want to get the users that are on a particular system. And there may be different ways of doing that. You may be able to do that using LDAP queries against Active Directory servers. You may be able to use built-in Windows commands to do this type of enumeration. One of the Windows commands that's built in that you can use for this sort of thing is netview. And I haven't actually provided anything here. I just want to see what kind of information I'm going to get back. It may go out and probe and just tell me what's going on. So I've got the list of servers for this workgroup is not currently available, so there's no domain controller or server available for the workgroup that we are part of. Now I could do something like this. Let me resize this so we can see everything here. I've got my IP address here, so I could run this against myself and do netview 192.168.1.27, and I get no entries in the list. But net is a helpful command, so I could do things like net accounts, net computer, net config, net continue, net session. Net is a way to make use of the SMB protocol in Windows and connect to other systems on the network. With netuse, I could set up a share. So if there were another Windows system on my network, I could netuse and map a share on that other system to a particular drive letter on my system. So I could use netuse to map somebody else's system to a drive letter on mine. So net is a really useful command that you could make use of to do some probing on a network that has Windows systems. In this case, you can see that there's a list price associated with it, and if you find it's useful, then you could certainly get the server resource kit. And the resource kit comes with a lot of different utilities, and some of those utilities give you the ability to do some deeper probing on Windows systems, and you can figure out what's going on and see if there's information that's available. One of the things that you'll find on several Windows systems in Windows networks is they have something called null sessions available. And what a null session means is you can connect to that system using no authentication, so no user and password. And even though you have no user and password, it will still provide you information, maybe about the types of shares or the share names rather, that are available on that particular server. Sometimes with null sessions, you can get usernames, you can get the computer name, of course, and you can get the domain or workgroup that's associated with that particular computer. So sometimes, even though you haven't provided a username and password, you can get some really useful information from Windows systems and Windows networks. Certainly, there are a lot of different enumeration techniques that you can use to gather information that you will be needing as you continue going through this ethical hacking or penetration testing process.